As Ed said earlier, there will be tea and coffee served at the back, so please do take that chance to carry on those conversations. For those who don't know me, my name's Ewan. At this stage in our Sunday morning gatherings, we often like to talk to members of the church and hear about the work that God has been doing in their lives. So this morning, I'd like to welcome David, who's kindly going to share with us. So just to start, for those who don't know you, David, who are you? And what was your experience of Christianity growing up?
Thanks, Ewan. It's first probably important to point out that my most important role is his father-in-law. So I'm David. I'm 68 years old, married to Mary for 45 years. 2 kids, Alison here with 2 daughters, and my son Peter in Aberdeen with 2 sons, which is lovely for me. I worked for IBM for 34 years. We lived in 5 different countries. When we moved to Ashley Heath 3 years ago, that was house number 11. So you may not see me for much longer. I grew up in a home where my parents took us, 2 brothers, and they took us faithfully week by week to church. But neither of them would have claimed a personal faith in Jesus. But my father especially thought it was very important that his sons came under some discipline in the church, and he thought it was good for us to be involved in Christian activities, so we were taken faithfully every week. I heard the gospel from my Sunday school teachers, and then in my mid-teens made a personal commitment to Jesus under the encouragement and care of the youth leaders in that church, and it was really great. Mary and I met there, and today is the 52nd anniversary of our first date. So you can congratulate her on her perseverance later on.
So you mentioned your youth group leaders there. Who would you say, or what would you say, have been the key spiritual influences in your life since then?
Yeah, I think it's always been people. It started when we were in the youth club together, and looking back, the youth leaders that we had were really sacrificial in their investment in the young people. It was during the Troubles in Northern Ireland. It wasn't a very happy place to live, but our youth leaders really went to the extremes to make us feel wanted, to make us feel loved, to encourage us to be the people we could be, but also to make sure that we knew the saving faith that we needed to have in Jesus. And they were a tremendous influence on us. And God has been very good. As I said, we have had 11 houses in 5 different countries. So every time we moved house, our top priority was to find a church family. And God was very faithful in providing us with good, mature Christian people who were prepared to invest in us as youngsters, as we were in the early days. And, I look back, as I've mentioned, the youth leaders. After that, they were mature men and women who took an interest personally in us. And one lesson that I learned very early in my married life was from a guy called John Rees, who had been a youth leader in the church that we belonged to in Cheshire. And he confessed to us one day that he wished he had spent less time looking after other people's kids at church and more time looking after his own daughters. None of his 3 daughters had any faith in Jesus at all, and that was one of his great regrets. And it was a useful lesson to Mary and to me to see that we had to establish our priorities. When we were serving God, it had to be balanced with a lot of the other things in life, including our responsibility to our own kids. When we lived in the States, we were part of a church family that was as close to the first century church as I had ever seen before. People who loved Jesus and wanted to share his love through whatever mechanism possible to people who were coming into their lives. And I think the big factor for us was they did it with no expectation of thanks or return. They did it because Jesus had been good to them, and they wanted to bless and be good to other people, and that was a great lesson for us growing up.
Thanks, David. So those were some of the blessings and the positive influences. Can you tell us about a particular area of challenge in your life, just one or two, aside from your favourite son-in-law?
Yes. Time doesn't allow me to go into all the challenges. I think the biggest challenge I had in my life was trying to balance my work life, my family life, my church service life, and also my selfish wants and needs. I've already mentioned John Rees and the impact that he had, but I was in the slow learners class in those early days, and I found it really quite difficult to get the balance right. So much so that I had a stress episode in my 40s, which changed my life forever. It wasn't very pleasant for me at the time, but looking back, it was God's way of really making me start to learn some of the lessons that he'd been trying to teach me for some time. And I think the key thing for me out of that was to make sure that I regularly reviewed my priorities and prayerfully considered how I was to manage the different challenges and the different balances that I needed to have in my life. Growing out of that, then I realized that when I came to retirement 12 years ago, that one of the things God wanted me to do was to help encourage younger men and women to think carefully through their priorities in life and how God can influence that and how God can make a difference to their lives in a very positive sense as they balance their priorities. So that's what I've tried to do, and I would encourage everybody, because most people here are younger than I am, just to seek out mature Christian friends, build a network whom you can trust, whom you can talk to, and who hopefully you can listen to graciously. One of my challenges in life was not hearing advice graciously. I was quite an arrogant little fellow, and resisted some of the advice that I was given. And I just try to encourage everybody to listen graciously. What you do with it is entirely up to you, but actually listening graciously is a blessing to those who want to offer things into your life.
Thanks, David. So how can we pray for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I still am in the slow learners class for many things, so please just pray for my continued journey to Christian maturity. It's a never-ending journey. I look forward to eternity with Jesus when I will be complete, but in the meantime, please just pray that I'll continue to stay close to him. And then secondly, just to be discerning in the opportunities that I have to help younger Christians. I've been a mentor to folks in the years since I retired, but moving over here, the landscape has changed a lot. So just please pray that I'll be wise in the opportunities that I take to invest in younger people. Thank you.